Working on the 2016 Chrysler 300 3.6 liter. Going to be replacing the oil filter housing / oil cooler. So first thing you want to do is go ahead and pop your hood. Okay, so with your hood popped here, and I just want to let you guys know I'll be doing 3 separate videos at the same time. So hopefully I don't leave anything out. But the first video is going to be replacing all 6 spark plugs. Second video, I'm going to go ahead and replace the oil filter housing and cooler. And then on the third, I'm going to be replacing the thermostat, the coolant pipe, and then also draining the cooling system as well. So in order to do the oil filter housing, there is coolant that runs through there through the oil cooler. So we will need to drain the coolant system. You don't have to do the whole thing. If you don't want to, you can just do a little bit, but I'm going to be doing that separate video. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the cooling system here. So go ahead and locate your coolant reservoir here. Let's go ahead and pull that cap off. Make sure your engine is cool before you do this. You just kind of unscrew it, press down, and then go ahead and pull that off. So then come down on the passenger side here. And what's nice is Chrysler put a little hose here for your coolant to drain. So go ahead and get you a drip pan here. We'll go ahead and slide that underneath that rubber hose there. That way the coolant will drain into that. So then come over here to the passenger side here. You can see your alternator there. And then down below there's going to be your drain plug for your radiator. So let's go ahead and loosen that up. So what you want to do here is you can see our drain plug and then the hose going out of it down into our pan past the skid plate there. So we need to loosen this plug. So just go ahead and try turning it. And it's kind of hard to turn. So if you need to, get a pair of pliers here. See if that'll help you spin it out of there. It's kind of hard to get your arm down in here. So just get it like that, and you can hear it drain there. So we'll go ahead and let that drain. And then as you can see, it's not draining too fast here, but that's all right. This way it doesn't make a mess. So I'll go ahead and let this drain. So next we're gonna need to remove this engine cover here. So go ahead and just lift up on it and it should just pop right off. Just like that. And then if you look here, you got these little tabs here, which snap into these round parts here. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and take my air compressor and blow tool. I'm gonna blow all this dust and everything off of here. And it looks like something's been under here like a mouse and has been chewing at this foam here. So I wanna make sure I blow all that stuff out of there. So in order to get to that oil cooler there, we're gonna need to remove this upper intake here, and then also the intake going into the throttle body. So take an 8mm. Let's go ahead and loosen up that hose clamp there. Come over here to the throttle body, loosen up that one, and you can see whoever's been here before didn't even put that on all the way. Go ahead and loosen that. Next, go ahead and unplug this sensor here. What you do is you got a little tab right here, so you push down on that and then pull out. That's what that looks like. So now we should be able to pop this off, and there should be a rubber plug holding that down right there, but you can see this one's missing. So again, somebody didn't put this back on correctly. But you can just pull it off your air filter housing there, and then you should be able to just pop that off like that. Next, let's go ahead and just start unplugging some of these sensors here. We'll start on the throttle body here. So you got this sensor here. There should be a tab right there, but you can see this one's broken off here. So this will just slide right off, just like that. And you got this little clip holding that on there. And you got one right here as well. That just lifts off. So take you a little screwdriver here and see if you can just kind of pry out on this. And it looks like that just broke as well. So just get underneath it like that. You can see that's what that looks like, but oh well. So then just press down on this. That'll unplug like that. Come on the back side here. You got a hose right here. Go ahead and try and pull that off of there. And I believe that goes to your brake booster there. And then looks like we got another one on the back side here. Go ahead and try and slide that one off as well. Just like that. Next, let's go ahead and remove this hose here, which I think is a breather hose for the front differential. You can go ahead and unclip it here. And then you got these clips holding it on here. Same with right here. Get that out of the way. Next, we need to remove these two 10mm nuts that are on these studs here that are holding the intake on to these brackets. So go ahead and pull those off. That's what those look like. And then back over here to the throttle body area. So you got a 10mm nut there, and then another one right there. So go ahead and remove those two. So next, it's kind of hard for you guys to see this, but so there's this bracket here, and you can see that little wire loom is connected to that bolt there. So I'm going to try and pull that wire loom off there, that clip, and then see if I can undo that bolt there, and then hopefully we can get this bracket out of the way. That way we can get the intake up here. So I'm just going to take you can use a flat head or whatever you need. Just see if you can pop this off of here. See, it's just connected on the stud there. Let's see if you can get that off, just like that. And let me grab my wrench. So then take you a 13mm, and let's see if we can get that stud out of that bracket there. So you may have to move this back a little bit. Get on it here. Let's see if you can pull that out of there. Once you get it kind of broken free, seems like it's going to come out easy by hand here. So that's what that looks like. And let's see if we can just kind of tilt that bracket back like that, just to get that stuff out of the way. Okay, so now let's go ahead and remove all 7 of the intake bolts. They're going to be 8mm. So you're going to have one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then your 7th one's going to be right there. So let's go ahead and remove those. So now we should be able to remove the intake here, the upper part. And so what you want to do, so since these brackets are still on there, I'm going to try to just kind of lift up and then scoop it out of there. So just go ahead and pull up. Just like that. And looks like I'm getting caught on this hose here. And then go ahead and lift your intake out of there. Then you go ahead and lift this foam piece out of here. Just make sure you don't drop anything down in the intake there. And you can see right here, there's just stuff everywhere from where there was a mouse in here chewing at it. So get this out of the way. Next, go ahead and grab you a clean rag here. And I'm just going to put this over this, because we don't want anything falling down in there. Because what I'm going to do, take my air compressor tool here, blow all this stuff out again, because you can see it's just everywhere here. So you just want to make sure none of those pieces go down into that. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. And while I do that, I'm just going to have my arm over this so it doesn't blow off. So next, let's go ahead and unplug all three of the coils here on the driver's side. And you can see, of course, looks like somebody broke this one as well, but you want to just go ahead and unplug those. See, there's a tab on them. So go ahead and unplug those three. So next we're going to need to unplug the fuel injectors. And you can see you got your three on this side here. So you got that little red locking tab on each one. So we need to pull up on that locking tab, and then we'll be able to squeeze it and unplug it. And these can be kind of tricky. So I'm just going to use a little hook here. Just apply a little pressure on that locking tab, just to bring it up like that. And then you can go ahead and squeeze it and unplug it just like that. The same thing. Because if you pull too hard, this red tab's going to go flying off. So that's why I like to use my little finger here to help, so it doesn't go flying off. And they can be kind of hard to squeeze off of there. Get your fingers in there. And so if they are hard to get off like that one, you can actually pull this whole locking tab out of there like that. And that gives you a little easier access, you can see, to squeeze on that. Just like that. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and put this back in there. Just like that. So those three all done. And then go ahead and take yourself, we'll go ahead and get these little wire loom clips off of here as well. So get up under those. Try not to break them. Just like that. So next we need to undo this fuel line here that goes to the fuel rail. And there's really not much pressure on these, so you don't have to relieve the pressure or anything, but if you can, just get you a little rag here, kind of stuff under there, just in case there's some fuel that likes to leak out of here. Then what you'll do is you got this quick disconnect here. So you got a green tab up here, and then there's one down below here, which is kind of hard to get to. But what you want to do is squeeze those together and then push in and then pull out. So if you can, get your finger up under there. Like I said, it's really hard to get that bottom one. And if you need to, you can kind of just turn this fuel line. So just squeeze those together, push in, and then pull out. You can see that just pops off just like that. And you can see there wasn't much fuel that came out of there. So then go ahead and do the same here to the passenger side. Get your coils all unplugged and then your fuel injectors. So once you get all those unplugged, you can go ahead and get this wire loom out of the way here. And you will need to go underneath. You can see it goes underneath the fuel rail here. So just kind of get that like that. And then you can take this fuel line here, just so fuel doesn't keep leaking out of it. Just kind of turn that up so it stops leaking. And then you can go ahead and get this out of the way here. And it looks like we got a clip back here, so let me show you that. So on the back side here, you're gonna have this clip there holding this wire loom on. So go ahead and pop that off. Try to get up under there. So that's what that looks like. So then you can just kind of tip these wires back here, just get them out of the way. So we can remove that lower intake here. So then you can go ahead and remove your rag here. And then you're gonna have 8mm bolts holding this lower intake on. So you got one there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's go ahead and remove those 8. Once you get all those loosened up there, and then also just make sure as you're moving over to the other side, you don't drop your socket or something down in there. But you want to make sure these are all loose and come up. Now let's go ahead and remove this. Should be able to just lift this up. And actually it looks like I got one more clip here on the back side. So it looks like I missed one clip right here. This black one holding that wire loom on. Let's go ahead and try to get that off of there. Just like that. Now we should be able to get this out of here. Let's go ahead and lift up. And then just be careful since your injectors are still in here. So I just kind of tilted on its side like that. You don't want anything hitting on these injectors there. Okay, so as you can see, that gives us a lot better access to our oil filter housing and then the cooler here on top. And you can see this one does not look old at all. That's because my daughter bought this car about a year ago from the Dodge dealership. And after she had bought it, a couple days later, they said, oh, we weren't supposed to sell you that because we needed to replace the oil cooler on it. So she took it back to them, and I feel like they rushed it or didn't do something correctly because it's kind of hard to tell. But down in there, there's a bunch of oil pooling up already. Same with this other side here, and you can smell it as well when you're driving it. So I'm not sure, like I said, if they did something incorrectly or there's an O-ring going bad on this already. I know these filter housings are prone to failure, especially the plastic ones here. So I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade it to an aluminum one for her, especially because she's going to be moving out of state here soon. And I just want to make sure her car is good to go before she does that. So before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and just put clean rags down in here because you don't want to drop anything down into your valves and that. So just get some clean rags here and just kind of stuff those like that just to prevent anything from falling down in. So next, let's go ahead and unplug our coolant sensor in that. So if you just take this, there's this red locking tab, just pull out on that, and then underneath, squeeze with your finger. That one unplugs like that. This one here, you got to get up under, and then you can use your middle finger here to kind of just push on it. And then this will pull out like that. So there's that. And then what you'll want to do is remove, so you got this clip going around your coolant hose here, and it's supposed to be down in that hole there, but as you can see, somebody didn't put that back on either. So you want to get that clip out of there, and then it's going to be really hard to get this undone. So I think the best bet is going to be to remove the whole filter housing first, and then we can undo that clamp there. Okay, so now we can go ahead and remove the oil filter housing here, and you're going to have a total of 5 Torx E8 bolts. So you're going to have 2 on the back side here, 1, 2, and then up here you're going to have 3. So 1 there, 2, and 3. So let's go ahead and remove those. And then you should be able to go ahead and pull up on this. Just make sure all those are loose. You see that just kind of pops out of there. And then grab yourself some pliers here. Go ahead and undo this clip or hose clamp for your coolant hose here. And then go ahead and try and twist this off of here. Let me grab a screwdriver, see if I can pry that off. Let's try this again here. So just like that, get that pulled off. And then go ahead and pull this out of here. All right, guys, so with that oil filter housing and cooler out of the way, you can see all the oil that pooled up right there. Some of that's probably from when I pulled it. But like I said, before I started this, there was just a bunch of oil down in there anyways. So I'm wondering if that O-ring was going bad on the filter housing there. Because there's not really much oil up here, but I need to let my camera charge. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up this valley here. I'm going to use a fluid extractor to get some of this old oil out, and then some paper towels. Just make sure you don't drop anything down your coolant ports here, or these oil ones as well. And I'll go ahead and do that. I'm also going to clean up along here as well. I'll use some brake clean and a paper towel, just get these all nice and shiny. And then I'll come back. All right, guys, so as you can see, I got the valley all cleaned out down there. And I pretty much just had to soak it up with paper towels. I tried a fluid extractor, but there was so much of that foam stuff, it was just getting clogged. So I went ahead and cleaned that all up. And then if you need to, you can disconnect these sensors here. So you got this little metal rod here. All you do is push down on that, and then I can pull that off like that. So if you need a little more room to get down in there. And then went ahead and cleaned up all this around here too, as best as I could. A lot of this is just stained on here. You just want to make sure it's flat. So you can just take kind of a razor there just to make sure it's flat. But a lot of that's not going to come up with just some brake clean and paper towels. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new oil cooler now. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our new oil filter housing and cooler. So I ended up going with the Dorman brand 926-959. I actually found this off Amazon. I know these are really hard to find right now because they're on back order everywhere, but I just checked on Amazon and actually they had one available. So I went ahead and bought it. I'll put a link in the description for it. But I did replace one of these on a Dodge Journey a few weeks ago, and I used the SKP brand, which I got from Rock Auto, and for some reason they don't list that one anymore, so I don't know if it's sold out or what's going on with that. So I ended up going with this Dorman one. And if you take a look here, it comes with all your gaskets, your new oil cap here. That's going to be your filter, and then your oil cooler, your bolts and all that. And then this is the oil filter housing here, and you can see it's all aluminum. And what's nice about this Dorman brand one is you can see right here, it's actually made in the USA, so it's kind of nice. And This is the old one here. You can see it's just all made of plastic. But what I don't like is we need to reuse our sensors here. So we're going to have to pull those out of the old one, because that SKP brand that I had came with all new sensors, and then all the O-rings and everything were already installed. Same with the cooler, which was kind of nice. So we're going to have to go ahead and install all that on this one first. But let's go ahead and pull these sensors off here first. So go ahead and grab a 19 millimeter. Let's go ahead and pull that one there. Get that one pulled out. And then grab a 27 millimeter, and we can go ahead and pull that one off of there. There's that one. So next, we'll take our oil filter housing here, and it's kind of nice to give you instructions and then also the torque specs for this as well. So they say to grab your oil cooler gaskets, which are going to be these guys here, and you can see they look exactly the same on both sides. So it doesn't really matter how those go in there, but you want to get those two in there. Then take your oil cooler here, and then you can see there's a screw hole here, so it's going to go on there like that, and you got these little dowels as well. So set that in there. Grab your bolts here, or your screws. Go ahead and get these started. And grab a Torx T30, and let's go ahead and get these all snugged up, and then we'll torque them. Grab your torque wrench, and they want you to torque these to 106 inch-pounds. Next, we need to coat the threads on our old sensors there. So I'll be using just some Permatex 59214 high temperature thread sealant. So just go ahead and coat the threads on both of these with some of that. So just something kind of like that. Same with this one here. So then go ahead and grab your sensors here. Go ahead and screw them in. And I'm probably just going to use my wrench on these. If you guys want to torque them, you can. They say to torque them to 177 inch-pounds. But I'm going to try to get them lined up to where they were before. So just grab a wrench here. I'm going to say probably about right there, because that one was kind of pointing down. Then go ahead and take the coolant temp here. Screw that one in. This was kind of the same thing. It was pointing downward. So I say probably about like that. You can wipe off this excess sealant if you want to. Next, you'll want to flip your housing over here. let's go ahead and install all these O-rings here. So you got 3 different sizes. So you got your large one, which is going to go here. So go ahead and press that in like that. And then you got these 2 medium-sized ones, which are going to go in these 2 right here. And then your smaller one, which is going to go right here in the front. And then let me get some oil. We'll lube up this O-ring, and that's going to go right on this here for the return line. So take a cap of fresh motor oil here, and let's go ahead and coat up this O-ring here in it. So you want to make sure this goes in there smoothly. You don't want this O-ring catching. So get both sides of that all lubed up here. And then you can actually put some on here if you want to as well. And then go ahead and get this on. Just like that. So now we should be ready to install. And then they do give you this other plug here, which we won't need. I guess some of the earlier models, the coolant temp sensor wasn't located here. So if you had to, you would go ahead and plug that with this. But since ours is there, we don't need to. So let's go ahead and get this in the vehicle here, and then I'll add the filter and cap after that. So then grab a new housing. Let's go ahead and get this coolant hose back on here. Get my clamp back around this hose here. And we'll go ahead and get that slid on here. Put that in place, and then try to get this clamp lined up the way it was before. Just make sure, so it's going to sit like that. Just make sure that hose is on there. And then you want to try to get these clamps back on the way they were. Looks like whoever did this before didn't do that. So we'll just get it as close as we can. So I'm going to say about like that. That's how it was. And then before I get this down in there, I'm just going to lube up this down here as well. So let me move my camera. So I'm just going to take some more of that fresh oil I have in that cap, and I'm just going to coat inside this hole here, because that's where that O-ring is going to slide into, and you don't want that O-ring getting snagged and ripping on you or anything, because it'll leak oil out of there once you get it all in there. So just make sure that's all lubed up really good here. So then go ahead and just check these O-rings that we put on there, make sure they're still in place before we set this on. And then what we're going to do is set it down in there, and then this part here that we lubed up is going to go into that hole that we lubed up down there, and it's going to kind of click into place. So just double check, make sure everything looks good down there, and watch your sensors here. Let's go ahead and get this in place. So once you get that in place here, kind of like that. And then what you're going to do is just press down. And that just kind of pops into place like that. Let's get our bolts here. So grab all your bolts, just kind of drop them down, and if we need to move it back and forth, we can. Grab your Torx E8, and let's just go ahead and kind of get those snug, and then we'll do our final torque. So just kind of make sure those go in by hand first. Just get them started. You don't want them binding up. So when I start snugging these, it says, it doesn't say anything about going in a crisscross pattern or anything, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do that just so they go down evenly. So then grab your torque wrench and torque those down to 106 inch-pounds. And then just double check them again. And then you can go ahead and plug in your sensors here. Let's get that bottom one first. Make sure it clicks. Same with this one. And then push in your red locking tab. And then you can, if you haven't done already, you can get this coolant hose back into place. Down in there like that. So now let's go ahead and get our new oil filter in there so we don't drop anything down in there. So take the one they gave you, and then that's just gonna snap into this cap here. Just like that. And then I went ahead and just lubed up this O-ring with some fresh motor oil. And now if you take a look at this cap here that they give you, so you need to use a certain filter now with this upgraded filter housing. So they give you the Hastings, Denso, and Wix filter numbers. So if you want to use those, there's also the Purelator right there, which you can cross-reference a lot of these as well. So now let's go ahead and stick this down in here. Get that threaded on. Grab a 24 millimeter, go ahead and tighten this up. So just go like that on there. You don't really need to get these tight. That's the problem people do, is they tighten these too much, and that's what breaks a lot of them. You can see it says right on here 25 plus 5 newton meters. So I'm just guesstimating on that. That should be good like that. Next, grab the lower portion of your intake here, and we're going to replace these gaskets because our new kit came with ones. So you can just take a little pick here. You can see they give you like a little slot here. You can get up under there. Go ahead and pull these out of here. And then really quick, I'm going to grab my rag and just kind of clean up along here where the gasket is going to meet those O-rings. Okay, so I got that all cleaned up. I just took a paper towel and cleaned out the inside as well of the intake here. Just get that all cleaned up. So then grab your new gaskets here. It's going to be these ones. And just go ahead and get these in place. And you can see they got these little like ridges on there. And that's what actually holds them in place. So just kind of gently press down on them just to get them up in there. Next, go ahead and remove all your paper towels out of here. So then grab your intake, your lower portion. Just make sure this is all clean. Again, nothing down in there. And your new gasket's in place. Let's go ahead and set this down on here. Get that kind of in place. May need to move these out of the way there. Once you get that kind of set on there, grab your 8mm. And let's just make sure we get all these kind of started by hand here. So let's go ahead and snug these up. And there is a pattern that they want you to use. So you got 1, 2 all the way back here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So let's get those snug really quick, and then we'll go ahead and torque them. So then grab your torque wrench, and we're going to torque those to 106 inch-pounds. So again, we'll start here at 1. Move on to 2. Over here to 3. Back to 4. Over here to 5. Six. 7. And 8. And then I'm just going to go around one more time, just double check and make sure. So next, go ahead and get your clip back on here. Push that one on. Then get your fuel injector harness here. Again, you need to go back under the fuel line here. And let's go ahead and plug in our injectors. Push down on those. Push down on the locking red tab here. Get those in place, and then you can go ahead and get your wiring harness locked down here. Plug in your coils. And then of course, same thing on this side. Next, grab your fuel line. Let's go ahead and get that on. You may have to turn this green thing here. Get that snap back into place like that, and then just make sure that ain't going anywhere. And then if you took this off here, you can go ahead and get this back in place. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do the spark plugs. Like I said, I'm doing that on a separate video, so if you're interested in that, check that out. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back. All right, guys, and I just took a couple zip ties there. You can see now that ain't gonna come loose since that clip was broke. You don't want this coming loose, especially with this end being under the intake and really hard to get to. All right, guys, so I went ahead and got all 6 spark plugs changed out. So if you're interested in that, check that video out. So now let's go ahead and put on our upper intake here. So go ahead and remove your rag from here. And what you want to do next is we need to replace these little gaskets here. You always want to do this. You never want to reuse them just in case you get a leak or something. They're cheap enough to buy, and since our oil filter housing kit came with it, we'll go ahead and replace them. For you guys that are watching the spark plug video, I'll put a link in the description to a set of these on Amazon. So if you take a look here, you got a little insert there. You can just take a pick under there. Go ahead and pull these off. Go ahead and take your new gaskets. Just go ahead and set them in, and then just kind of lightly press down. Make sure they're in there all the way. Go ahead and do that to all these. And then go ahead and put this foam piece on that the mouse had a heyday on. That's going to sit on there like that. So now grab your upper intake, and what I like to do is go ahead and unscrew these until they kind of get stuck into the plastic there and they're not going to go anywhere, and to where they're not sticking out, poking through the bottom here. You want to do that on all those, so that way we can get this up on top here without having to mess with those screws. And go ahead and get your intake up here. Again, kind of sliding it onto the studs over here on the driver's side. Once you get it through there, so you can kind of just set it down here. Make sure none of these hoses are in the way. And just like that, kind of sits on top there. So what you want to do now is let's just poke all those back through and just kind of get them started by hand here. Just make sure they thread into there without any issues. For some reason, this one's kind of hard to get started on here. There we go. So if it's having issues, just back it out and then just kind of move the intake a little bit and try it again. But now I got them all started by hand here. So let's go ahead and snug them up. And the way you want to snug these up is you're going to start out with that one back there. That's going to be 1. Come up here, this is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So let's go ahead and snug those up lightly, and then we'll go ahead and do the final torque. So then grab your torque wrench, and we're going to torque those to, I'm going to go 8 Newton meters, but it even says on here, go between 7 and 9 Newton meters, which I think is right around 89 inch-pounds. Again, you're going to go in the sequence. So I'm going to start all the way back here. If I can get on it. And then all the way up to here, it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I'm just going to double check again. So next you can go ahead and just start connecting everything up. Again, this is your breather hose for your front differential. If yours is an all-wheel drive, let's go ahead and snap that in right here. And these just clip onto here. Just kind of like that. Next, grab your 2 10mm nuts here. Let's go ahead and get those on both of those studs there. And go ahead and tighten those down. Sorry about that, camera fell there. And then again, get your bracket in place here. Get that over those 2 studs here. So like that. And get your 2 10mm nuts. I'm just going to get these started. And again, get your this little stud back here, which holds this bracket in place. It's kind of hard to see. But try and get that started. Once you get that hand tight, grab your 13 millimeter. Try to get back in here and go ahead and make sure that's tight. I think we're good right there. And then go ahead and get this little wire loom that goes on top of that. Push that on like that. And then go ahead and tighten these up with your 10 millimeter. Then go ahead and connect your hose here for your PCV valve. Get that pushed on. And then go ahead and grab this one that goes from the brake booster to your intake. Go ahead and push that on. And then you got this little clip, snaps into this hose. And then take this one, goes from your evap canister over here. Push that on there. Go ahead and grab your throttle body wires and all this. Go ahead and snap that in. Then your little clip here. And like I said, this clip's broken as well, so I may have to repair that one. Go ahead and plug that one in there. This clips onto the intake there. So again, I just took a couple zip ties there, so now that won't come unplugged. Okay, so with all that on, pretty much all we have left is to change the oil, refill the cooling system, and also get this intake on. But before I put this intake on, I'm going to go ahead and go to my other video where I'm replacing the thermostat housing here, and then also this coolant tube here. I'm going to be replacing that. So let me go on to that video, get this done really quick, and then I'll come back. So next we'll go ahead and close up that radiator drain valve down there. So go ahead and reach down there, get that twisted up. And it's still hard to do with just your fingers, so let me grab some pliers. So just like that, you can hear it kind of click into place. So we should be good right there. And then you can just take a rag, kind of clean up any of this excess coolant that kind of spilled, just for when we go to look for leaks. Next we'll go ahead and get our intake back on. So go ahead and slide that onto your throttle body here. Kind of get that in place. Come over here to your air filter housing. Get that on. Go ahead and plug in your mass airflow sensor here. And then just make sure that it's on all the way. And then like I said, there's supposed to be a rubber piece down here, but this one's missing it. So just make sure that's on all the way. Go ahead and tighten up your hose clamp with an 8 millimeter. And of course, same thing on this one here. Okay, so before we go ahead and start filling the coolant real quick, I'm going to go ahead and jack this up, and let's go ahead and drain the oil. So just go ahead and grab your jack. I'm going to jack up right underneath here. There's a little center support beam we can go off of just underneath the skid plate here. So then come over here to your pinch welds. You got this little spot here. Go ahead and put a couple jack stands. You can see I got the other side set up already. And we'll go ahead and lower it. So go ahead and crawl underneath here, and you got 4 10mm bolts we need to remove to get this skid plate off to access the oil pan. And if you take a look, you can see all the shavings here. That's from that mouse that was chewing out that foam pad. You can just kind of slide that towards the back of the car and get that out of the way. So then go ahead and grab a drain pan here. Let's go ahead and pull the drain plug there on the oil pan. It's going to be a 13mm. And we'll go ahead and let that drain. Then once that's done draining, go ahead and replace your drain plug here. Go ahead and wipe that off. And go ahead and get that snug. And then you can go ahead and get your skid plate put back up under here. So you may just get it, slide it under here. Grab your jack, let's go ahead and lower it. Go ahead and pull off your oil fill cap here. Grab a funnel so we can go ahead and start filling. I'm going to be using this Valvoline Extended Life 5W20, and this takes 6 quarts. So I got a 5-quart jug and then also this 1 quart. So let's go ahead and add 6 quarts. Go ahead and pull your funnel, and we'll go ahead and replace our oil cap here. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and mix our coolant. So I went ahead and bought 2 gallons of this off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description, but it's just the Mopar concentrate. So we do need to mix this. And this is the Mopar OAT coolant, which is what you want to use in these vehicles. It's kind of a pinkish color, but then over time it turns into an orange. And normally you guys would mix this 50-50, being down here in the lower 48, and you'll be just fine. But like I said earlier, this is my daughter's car, and she's actually moving up to Alaska here soon. And she's moving right outside of Fairbanks on the Army base up there. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of 50-50, I'm going to go 60-40, just to give her a little more freeze protection. Because the 60-40, it'll be good up all the way down to -62 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know up there they get down to -30, -40 easily in the winter time. So let's go ahead and mix this. And what you want to do is just mix this with distilled water, because distilled water doesn't boil. And I actually picked this up at Walmart. I'll put a link in the description for it. But it's easy to measure this out, especially since I'm not doing 50-50. So I think what I'm going to do for the 60-40, I'm going to go right at about 2.5 quarts of coolant. And then we'll go ahead and go up to the 4 with our distilled water here. So let me go ahead and pull this off. Go ahead and open up one of these. Like I said, if you guys do the 50-50, that's what normally I do, and that's just fine. Good enough protection for down here in the lower 48. So let me go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to take this up to the 2.5 mark there. So right about there, open up this distilled water, and I'll go up to the 4. And that'll give us exactly 1 gallon of 60-40 mix here. So right there like that. Go ahead and just put this back on here. And we can go ahead and start filling. And then I forgot to show you guys here, but if you take a look, this is what we came out. And if I tilt this back, so this is in quarts, you got 20, 15, 10. And if I tilt this back a little bit there, you can see there's our 5 quart mark. So it looks like we're sitting right at about 5-6 quarts of coolant that came out. And then before we go ahead and start filling, I forgot we need to pull this bleeder screw off of here. So this new one's going to be a 16 millimeter, but if you still have the old plastic style housing, you can use a Phillips head screwdriver. So just go ahead and loosen that. I guess we should have filled it before we put the intake on, but that's all right. So go ahead and pull that plug out of there. And you can see it does have a little rubber O-ring as well. And what we're gonna do is we'll go ahead and start filling. And then once we see coolant coming out of that, you wanna grab it real quick and tighten it up, because then we know we got all the air out of it. So let's go ahead and start filling this. We'll start out with these 4 quarts first. You can see I kind of made a mess there. So that right there is 4 quarts or 1 gallon. So let me go ahead and mix up another gallon here real quick. And I'll actually just wipe this off as well. Okay, so I went ahead and mixed up another gallon of coolant here, 60-40. So let's go ahead and pour this in here. And it's probably getting close to where coolant's gonna come out of that bleeder hose. So make sure you're paying attention to that. And there you go. So you can see it coming out down there. So hurry up and get your plug in here before it makes too big of a mess. Go ahead and screw that in. And let's go ahead and tighten that down. So get that pretty snug. Say good about there. And I'll probably have to go and wipe some of that off down there. So now we can go ahead and continue filling. Let me go ahead and move my camera here so I can show you. So if you take a look here, you can see this lower line here is going to be your minimum line. Top one's going to be your maximum. So let's go ahead and continue filling here. And we can actually probably go over the maximum line a little bit here. Because once this warms up and that thermostat opens up and it starts flowing through the whole system there, this is probably going to drop just a little bit. So if we go over that max line for now, it's not going to hurt anything. So just go ahead and add some more here. So I'm going to go ahead and just try that. That's right at about the max line there. So that should be good for now. And I'll go ahead and just wipe this down a little more, and I'm actually going to leave that cap off for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and start it now. I'm just going to do the oil part of it first. So I want to make sure we got good oil pressure, and then we'll go ahead and shut it off, check our level just to make sure we're good on that, and then we'll start it again, and I'll go ahead and go through the coolant stuff. So go ahead and start it up here. And let's see if I can scroll through here, find oil pressure. So you can see right there, looks like we're at 44 psi, so that's good on the oil pressure. So now let me go ahead and shut it off. And I'll let this sit for a few minutes here, and we'll go ahead and check our level. Okay, so I let that sit a little bit here. Let's go ahead and just check our level. Just pull it out. Stick it back down in there. And you can see we're right about right here, and we should be in the crosshairs, but we're good for now. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and start it, let it warm up, and then after a while here we'll recheck it when it's all warmed up, and we'll see where we're sitting at. But for right now, we do have oil in it, so we're good. So now we'll go ahead and start it. And we'll go ahead and let this warm up. Let me find a coolant temp here. So there's our coolant temp. So it looks like we're sitting at already at 123. And then okay, so let's go ahead and start it. And then we'll go ahead and turn this on. Figure out the climate control here. There it is. So we'll go ahead and just put it on the floor for now, and then make sure you're on high, warmest setting on both of those. And we'll go ahead and let this warm up. Let's see where we're at so far. Wrong way. So you can see it's already climbing faster. So we're already at 140 degrees on the coolant temp. So we'll go ahead and let this idle and get up to a normal operating temperature. And then we'll check to see too, once we start getting warm air coming out of the vents, knowing that it's flowing through the heater core. And then with it running here, you can go leave your cap off if you want. But you can see it dropped just a little bit just from starting it. So let's go ahead and, like I said, we'll let this get up to temp, get that thermostat to open up, and then we can go ahead and recheck this in a little bit here. And then go ahead and come underneath here, grab your flashlight, and then just look down in there, especially around this O-ring here. And if you don't see any oil coming out or pooling up, we should be good. It seems to be running just fine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and replace this cap for now. Let that build some pressure. All right guys, so I ended up having to take it on a little drive here to get that thermostat to open up. But as you can see, now we're up to normal operating temperature there. And we also got hot air coming out of the vents here. So we should be good. So let me go ahead and shut it off here. And then don't forget to set the engine oil life light. So go ahead and press your button here. You can press that twice. And then let's go ahead and scroll to engine oil life right there. And then go ahead and hold OK right here. Now you can see that's at 100%. Go ahead and start it just to make sure. And that looks good. So then go ahead and check your level again, since our thermostat did open. And you can see it dropped a little bit here, but once this cools off overnight, this will probably slowly drop a little bit, and then I'll need to add some in the morning because coolant expands with heat. And then another way you can tell if your thermostat opened up is if your upper radiator hose is hot to touch, which this one is, then you know the thermostat opened up over there. and coolant started flowing through it. And then let's just go ahead and check our level here, oil level here one more time, just to make sure. And if you take a look here, so it's kind of hard to see, but it looks like we're right in the half area of these crosshairs here. So I'm going to call that good. I'll keep an eye on it if we need to add half a quart more. Maybe it's because we took out the oil cooler and that, so we needed to add more. But as long as you're in these crosshairs here, you'll be fine. And then don't forget to put your little engine cover on here. Get all those lined up. Again, these little rubber areas here, click onto those. Just make sure you get those all lined up. And just push it down into place, just like that. All right, so that's gonna be it for the video. Again, this was a 2016 Chrysler 300, 3.6 liter. And I'm gonna go ahead and check that coolant level again in the morning and add any if I need to on that. But again, we went ahead and replaced the oil filter housing / oil cooler, drained and refilled the cooling system, and then also changed the oil as well. So hopefully this video helps you out. Not too bad of a job to do. Takes a little bit of time. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, check out all my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.